In permaculture, we typically divide up properties into 5 zones, although you can further subdivide each zone if you like as well. Zone 1 areas are the areas really close to our living space, right outside the kitchen door or right outside the front door, right along your driveway, where you park your car. The areas that you're naturally going to be visiting every day. These are going to get your most intensive fruit crop trees, perhaps. They're going to have herb gardens and picking gardens, crops that you're going to use on a daily basis or that require daily care. Zone 2 areas are the next zone out. They usually are going to be things that we visit a few times a week to even maybe once a day. They're areas that are going to be a little more extensive and a little more carefree. These could include forest garden areas, nursery areas, compost production, small animals like chickens and rabbits, additional living space, space to relax. And remember, this is also potentially going to be on the way out to Zone 3, so it's going to be more intensive places you might visit quite frequently. Zone 3 areas are where we get into commercial production or large-scale calorie crop production. They could also be meat systems, large animal systems, things like that. They could be nurseries, if that's what you're doing for commercial production. It could be extensive forest garden or food forest or agroforest systems. Integrated crop systems like Three Sisters Gills. These are things that we're going to be visiting maybe once a week or several times a month at most. So they've really got to be able to take care of themselves. And we're going to get into a lot more detail about what that means and how to do it later on. Finally, we have the most extensive zones, Zone 4 and Zone 5. And if you're living in a region where you get more than 30 inches of rainfall a year and you have a warm enough climate to support tree growth, then Zone 4 and Zone 5 are going to be forest. Anything else means you're fighting against nature and what nature wants to do, which is going to take more of your time and more of your energy. Zone 4 is going to be managed forest. And basically, this zone needs to be just about as large as you need it to be and no bigger, depending on what your goals are. This could be an area of coppice woodlot to produce fuel wood for your home. It could be crafts again. It could be lumber for building or for your gardening. And it could be mushroom production or spring ephemeral crops. But beyond that, there's nothing else to do here. The only maintenance necessary is occasional weeding and watering. And when you get to Zone 5, there is nothing to be done, except perhaps maintaining paths through it by walking there occasionally. True wild nature. Zone 5 is the teacher. So every property needs a Zone 5, a place where nature is free to work on its own. Because in the end, zones don't just define our properties, they define our right, correct, gentle, and sustainable relationship with nature and with the world. Because when we create these zones, we're creating gradients between human-controlled areas in our Zone 1 that exclude other wildlife and nature, and creating real beneficial places for nature out in Zone 4 and Zone 5. And the places in between become a matter of cooperation with nature. So zones really lead us on the path of becoming what we should be, of reclaiming our place as the most beneficial organisms in the ecosystem instead of something that's just destructive, where we feel like we own it all and we take it all. Zones allow us to create a much more balanced and helpful relationship with nature. Alright, so that was our video about zones. You should have a pretty good basic understanding of zones now. In our next video, we're going to lead you through an exercise on zones and your property, help you brainstorm and look out through those zones, one zone at a time. We're also going to be going through a bit of a tour here at Lillie House and going into more depth about which kinds of crop systems and especially what kinds of plants and uses are going to be best adapted for each zone. Alright, stay tuned.